Welcome to Alasquatch, the show all about Bigfoot in the great state of Alaska. I'm your host, Beans Baxter. So lace up your boots, zip up your coat, and come with me on an adventure as we explore all things cryptid in the last frontier. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to my review of the Batman. This is actually a kind of a historic Alasquatch episode because this is the first episode that I've ever completely re-recorded, I guess. I actually recorded this about a week ago, and as you can tell, my voice thing is still going on. I still don't sound normal, and it was so bad for the episode that I recorded last week that I didn't release it. I'm going to delete it and replace it with this one. Again, I feel fine. I feel somewhat back to normal, but it's just my voice. It just it's like a constant hoarseness. Sometimes it's worse than others. The other day I was like, oh, I'm better. My voice is normal. And like the next day it was worse than ever. So not sure what's going on with it. But like any man, I am going to put off going to the doctor about it until probably it's either too late or it's just going to go away on its own. So there's that. But let's get into it. No cryptids this time. We're just going to talk about the new Batman movie. I do have some cool cryptid stuff lined up. I'm waiting to hear back from a witness that I reached out to on something really cool. And hopefully I can get them on. If not, maybe I can at least get them to tell me their story and I can relay it to you. But I'm hoping to have them on. We'll see. So anyway, let's talk about the Batman. I mean, I've been really, really excited for this movie. Those of you that know me, that have met me in person, you've probably seen my Batman tattoo. Obviously, Batman is one of my favorite fictional characters. I don't know if I've ever told the story here or not. I've always been a decent writer. Some would probably correctly argue that I'm a better writer than I am a speaker. I think my books are definitely better than my podcast. But I took a creative writing, or was it creative writing, or was it just, it was some kind of writing class in college. It was like my first year of college. I was a freshman. And the instructor wanted us to write a paper about a hero or somebody we looked up to or somebody that inspired us. And I wrote my paper about Batman. And I can't remember what grade she gave. I didn't fail. I think it was like a D or a C or something. And she basically said, Batman's a fictional character. He's not real. Well, she never instructed us that in the instructions. She didn't give us those parameters. And that was pretty much my taste of college, where I was kind of like, this might not be for me. But anyway, I've always been a huge fan of Batman. I read Batman comics growing up. When Batman came out in '89 with Michael Keaton, I just lost my damn mind. I mean, I loved Batman. I had Batman everything. And I really enjoyed reading the comics. Everybody, Batman's one of those characters. He's been around for so long that there's been several different versions of him. Whereas you have, the old Adam West series, you have the more serious takes, and it kind of gets darker as we go on. The comics, it was the same thing, in the 60s and 50s, Batman was like walking down the street in the middle of the day, helping old ladies cross the street and stuff. And, always smiling. And then, kind of in the mid 80s, it kind of took a turn to a little bit more dark and gritty. And I remember when the Batman movie came out, Batman '89, I had picked up a trade paperback of Frank Miller's The Dark Knight. And, I was I knew Batman was kind of dark and gritty, but that really, I was probably too young to read it. I think it was for mature readers, and I don't know how old I was, but probably wasn't old enough to read it. But that really made an impression on me as kind of my definitive version of the Batman. And I guess I kind of judge all Batman since then by Frank Miller's Dark Knight. They don't necessarily have to be that dark and gritty, but I like it. I like it to be serious. I like a serious take on the character. A little bit of humor here and there, but just he's a serious character. He's on a serious mission. He sees it as a mission, and that's one of the great things about Batman is anybody could be Batman if you had the will and the training. You could do it. You could be Batman. Batman doesn't necessarily need all the gadgets and stuff, although it's really fun to see him use them. I mean, he could be Batman, in his bathrobe if he needed to be. And that's the cool thing about it. And I was really excited about this version of the character. Some of you know, The Dark Knight by Christopher Nolan with Christian Bale. That's probably my favorite movie of all time. And I've seen it, I don't know, over a dozen times, probably more than that, probably a couple of dozen. And for a long time, that was pretty much the definitive version of Batman for me on screen. I really enjoyed Ben Affleck's Batman. I think probably physically he was better than Bale. I think he looked more like Batman. Loved his suit, his costume. Thought it was great. Looked like it stepped right out of the comics. And this movie, The Batman, was supposed to be a Ben Affleck Batman movie that at one point he was on board to direct. And, it sounds like it was more his decision than anything. He decided he didn't want to do it. And I'm sure there were good reasons behind it, but a part of me is just like, how in the world somebody comes to you and they're like, hey, we're going to give you all this money to make this Batman movie. I think they gave him pretty much creative control over it. You can do whatever you want. Of course, you're going to be Batman and you're going to direct it and you can do whatever you want. Here's this money. Have fun. And he's like, nah, I'd rather go do something else. What the fuck? I mean, I cannot grasp it. I mean, I guess obviously he's probably not as big a fan of the character as I am or a lot of people. But it's just one of those things where you're like, how you cannot fathom how someone would come to that conclusion to where they would just be like, nah, fam, I'm good. I don't need all that money to be Batman and play Batman and, write this Batman. Man, I would write Batman stories for free, let alone if you were going to pay me for it. I'd be all over it. So yeah, it's hard for me to grasp that way of thinking, that train of thought where you're just like, nah, I'm not going to do Batman. So anyway, we were left with no director and no Batman, and they ended up giving it to Matt Reeves, who I am not super familiar with. I have seen Cloverfield and I've seen a couple of the Planet of the Apes movies, but I'm not sure which ones he directed. And I like the Planet of the Apes movies, okay, but I wasn't like super blown away with them. Obviously, I can't even remember like which ones I've seen and which ones were about what. I know pretty much for a fact I haven't seen probably the last two. But yeah, I wasn't super familiar with his work. Didn't know much about it. And, with a lot of these superhero type movies, there's a lot of secrecy around them. They don't really talk about spoilers or plot points or anything like that. By the way, there are going to be some spoilers for the movie, but I mean, at this point, it's been out for almost 3 weeks now. So if you haven't seen it, that's on you. It's actually, I think we're about a month away from it coming to streaming. So I think it's going to be on streaming at the end of April on HBO Max. So they give it to Matt Reeves. He takes off with it. Cast Robert Pattinson. A lot of people weren't happy with that. They didn't agree with Pattinson. He was Twilight Boy. He was this, he was that. Saw a lot of criticism of him for that. I wasn't unhappy. I had seen him in some serious other roles, Lost City of Z, some other stuff, and I thought he did fine. He's a good actor. Had no problem with his casting. I thought he would probably have a good take on it. Um, One of the most puzzling things that I heard about his casting is somebody called him too scrawny, and I actually replied. I was like, most of the Batman's physique in the comic books is portrayed as very muscular and almost like a bodybuilder, and most bigger guys like that are pretty slow. And I mentioned to the guy, comic books is a physical medium. You got to see it's a visual medium. I'm sorry, not physical, visual medium. So it's for your eyes. You got to beef things up, to make them look cool. And I told the person with that opinion, I was like, most of the special forces guys that I've ran into or that I've had any dealings with, they were all kind of small and scrawny. Most of them were little guys. Not a lot of hulking behemoths in the special forces community. I mean, there's a few. I think Marcus Luttrell's a pretty tall guy, but for the most part, they're all pretty small guys. So I think it would probably stand that if Batman was in real life, if there was a Batman in real life, he'd probably be a smaller guy, kind of a scrawny guy to be able to pull off some of the stuff he did. Well, when I say scrawny, I don't mean not muscular. I mean smaller in stature. He wouldn't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He would look more like somebody that was a more well-rounded athlete, somebody that was focused on like endurance and stuff like that, not just weightlifting. So, and that's that's my opinion. Maybe you like your Batman, to look like Ben Affleck on steroids. I don't know. But I was hopeful. I saw all this information coming in about Robert Pattinson. I was hopeful. I remember where I was when I saw the first trailer that they had released, and I was at work. I was sitting in the office where kind of like the break room. And I think I watched the trailer like 2 or 3 times on my phone. And I was just blown away by how gritty and dark it looked and how realistic, how grounded it seemed. It was really cool. And I think this might have been like 2019, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, COVID hit. They ceased production, they started and stopped production a couple of times. The movie got delayed, from I think it got, or maybe it was 2020 no, it was 2019. I'm pretty sure. And then it got delayed to like 2022. And it was just, I was a little concerned because usually when movies get delayed like that, it's not a good thing, but I think in this case, it was mostly due to COVID, and I don't think they wanted to plop this onto streaming, kind of like they did with Wonder Woman 2, which was a terrible film. I'm so glad I didn't go to the movies and see that. I did really enjoy the first one though, but it didn't look well for the production, but that trailer gave me a lot of hope. And then, of course it got delayed after the trailer was out, and I was still a little concerned because just because they put out a really cool trailer doesn't mean it's going to be a good movie. I have gone to so many movies that I thought had awesome trailers and were disappointed. So, especially we're talking about Batman here, and there is so much with Batman that, being such a big fan, there's so much that they can, just a little thing that they can get wrong that could almost ruin the entire movie for me. Remember, I was saying Dark Knight is probably my favorite movie of all time. Well, The Dark Knight Rises, the sequel to that, isn't even in probably my top 20 or probably not even in my top 50. And one of the main reasons why I dislike that movie is one, I think it's kind of convoluted. But two, at the beginning of the movie, Batman is retired and he's quit. And he's just kind of moping around until events spring him back in the action. And that was like, I was like, wait, this doesn't, no, Batman doesn't quit. And I think the reasoning in the movie was like, well, they defeated crime. They took down all the crime bosses. The mob was still, was gone. And I'm like, yeah, but there's still like, there's still people out there like stealing and people getting murdered. And like, they stopped organized crime. They didn't stop crime. Remember, Bruce's parents were killed by some random dude that was trying to get high, or whatever, or depending on whatever version that you watch. So Batman doesn't stop. Like, he just doesn't. Maybe eventually when he realizes, okay, I'm too old for this, I can't do it anymore. But not at that age. According to the I think the Nolan movies, Batman was probably only Batman for, was it 2 years? Maybe 3? So, yeah. The rest of the movie could have been a lot better, and I probably still wouldn't have enjoyed it just because of that fact. So going into the Batman, I was a little concerned. They were going to do some things that didn't sit right with me. One of those is the current, I guess, trope of, anybody that has money, basically all rich people are evil. And that's kind of the thing, with a lot of movies, which is funny because it's like the people that are making these movies, the studios that are producing them, all these people are, pretty well off, pretty rich. And they always point to the financially successful as, corrupt and evil. And, granted, I'm sure there are some rich people out there that are evil and corrupt, but there's also probably some good people out there that have money. Just because you have money doesn't mean you're good or bad. There are different alignments for all walks of life. And there were a couple of things in the trailer that concerned me, that made me think they were going to vilify the Waynes. And one of those was basically like the Riddler was seeking out corrupt individuals in the Gotham City government. And, you're telling Batman, you're a part of this. And, there's been a few different versions of the Riddler that figured out Bruce Wayne was Batman. I was like, oh God, they're gonna tell us that the Waynes were evil, and we'll get into that a little bit more. I'm going to try and make this a little brief because my voice is still kind of screwed up. But we went and saw the movie. It was finally here. I made plans to go see it like months in advance. We had planned a trip, which I didn't know this at the time, but it actually premiered here in our little town. But I didn't know it was going to do that at the time. I thought that usually our movies come here a week or two. I'm sorry, about 2 weeks after, no, it's 3 weeks after they get released or more. And I was like, damn it, I'm not waiting. I want to go see the Batman opening night. So we made arrangements to travel up to Anchorage, and we went to go see it in IMAX. I actually bought my tickets like as soon as they went on sale, like February 10th or something. It wasn't, I bought them like the day they went on sale. Like I stayed up late and kept refreshing the page to buy them. And joke was on me. Like I don't even think the selling that we went, or the show that we went to, sold out. And I kind of screwed up when I bought our tickets, because now, you can buy, you can choose your seats where you sit in the theater. And I wanted to be in a good spot. So I chose like in the very middle on like I think it's the 5th row. And it sounds close, but I didn't think it was that close. Just looking at the chart, it's basically the section right before where the handicap seating is. And then the next row back is probably the row that I should have been on. So we get there and they start showing the commercials and previews and stuff. And, it's IMAX. And of course, there's people all on both sides of us. So other people, that whole row I think we were on was filled up. and they start showing the commercials and stuff. And me and my wife kind of look at each other and I'm like, oh, I might have screwed up. Like this is, because the screen is just so big. And I was a little concerned. I was like, man, I think we're sitting too close. And once the movie, like that was for the previews and stuff, but once the movie got started, I didn't even notice it. I didn't even notice that we were too close. It didn't even not once did it enter my mind, like, oh man, I wish we're too close. I can't see everything, but it was fine. So it was a great, so the first time I saw it, I really liked it, but I wasn't sure like what I thought about it. I was like, man, I got to see it again. So I heard a quote from somebody that really kind of like explained that situation to me, because I was like, man, I don't understand why, I felt, because my wife come out of there like, that's probably the best Batman movie ever made. And I'm like, well, I don't know. It was pretty good, but I'm going to have to see it again. And I heard a guy talking about kind of that very thing. And he said, the first time you see it, you're looking for the stuff you want, and you're looking for the movie that you want. And then the second time you see it, what's going to happen. You're not anticipating anything. You're not, really looking for anything. You're not dwelling on things you don't like. You're just experiencing the movie the second time you watch it, and you enjoy it a little bit more. And that's pretty much what happened with me with the Batman. The first time I watched it, I was almost kind of on pins and needles, like, oh, please don't screw this up. Please don't suck. Please don't suck. Please don't suck. The second time I watched it, I was like, okay, I know it doesn't suck. Now I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it. And, there's only a couple of, well, before I get into that, I'll say one of the biggest criticisms I've heard about the movie from other people is that it's too long. It's about, people are saying it's 3 hours long. It's probably more along the lines of I think it's 2:45, 2:50. And if you sat and watched the credits, it's probably about 3 hours. But, people are like, oh, it's too long. They could have shortened it up. They could have shortened it up. They could have made it shorter. They could have made it shorter. I don't really see how. There's only like one scene in the whole movie that I feel they could have left out completely, and it wouldn't have made a lick of difference. But everything else, it seemed like flowed into the next thing. And you're literally, people have been asking for years, like, we want a Detective Batman. We need Detective Batman. Where's Detective Batman? And we finally get it. And now people are like, it's too long. But you gotta work this case with him. You gotta follow the clues. And this is a movie you have to pay attention to. Like, you can't just put it on in the background and scroll on your phone, or, talk to the person next to you, or yell at your kids, or whatever. And then at the end of the movie, you're like, oh man, yeah, okay, yeah, I understand how it all fit together. You got to pay attention. There's a couple of things that I missed on the first viewing. I mean, not major things. I still got the gist of everything, but there were a couple of things that I missed during the first viewing that I caught in the second viewing. I was like, oh, okay, that's how that person knows that information. I kind of missed that. There's some quick explanations. And somebody said, oh, the movie's nothing but exposition. I disagree, because there's a lot of things that you have to pay attention to. For example, one of the big, well, not big, but one of the complaints that I've heard is toward the end of the movie, the Riddler pulls the trope of, he gets captured, and then while he's captured, basically while he's in custody, I'm getting excited. I'm talking too fast. His master plan starts to play out while he's already in custody, or his grand scheme, his final scheme. And that involves blowing up a seawall on the Gotham, along the Gotham border, or that borders the ocean, or I guess the sea. And there were a couple of people that had seen the movie, and they're just like, one of them had seen it twice, and was just like, what the hell? What did this seawall have to do with anything? Where did it come from? It's just all of a sudden a thing. And I'm like, that literally, like, some of the first lines in the movie are talking about it. As soon as the movie starts, there's a character that's watching a debate on TV for the mayor's office. It's a mayoral debate for people that are running for mayor. And it's literally mentioned within the first like 3 or 4 minutes of the movie. And I don't know. I think some people they're probably, like I said, they're probably on their phone or they're not engaged. This is the movie you have to engage with, at least for the detective story. And I tried to count the second, or no, actually, I've seen it 3 times. We went to see it in IMAX. I went to see it again by myself here in town. And then we went to see it again. My wife wanted to see it again, so we went and saw it again here locally. And I was actually going to go see it a 4th time. I was going to go see it this week. Actually, it probably would have been today. But it didn't run for a full 2 weeks. So I didn't get to go the 4th time. But I totally would have if I could have. And in fact, in a couple of weeks, I got to take a trip up the road to one of the bigger towns here and get some work done on the car. And if I find myself waiting around all day, if it's still playing, I might go see it that 4th time at the theater up there if it's still playing. But yeah, I think that a lot of people kind of miss a lot of the intricacies of the story. And they were kind of like, well, I felt he could have explained this better. I felt he couldn't explain that better. And some of it I kind of agree with, but on the other hand, I'm like, man, do you have to be spoon-fed everything? Like, isn't it cool that you can, oh yeah, they were talking about those seawalls at the beginning of the movie, like, oh yeah, I get that. And not like, where in the hell did these seawalls come from? I wasn't paying attention, so I'm going to complain. But the story, I'm not going to get too deep into the story and go like plot point by plot point. I'm going to touch on some things I liked and a couple of things I didn't like. There's not a whole lot I didn't like, obviously. I really enjoyed the story. They borrowed a lot from like the Long Halloween, where the Riddler is killing prominent officials. He's leaving these riddles that don't. They don't really, not all of them lead to the next victim. It's kind of interesting because you think he's kind of being the comic book Riddler in that he's trying to leave clues for his next victim. He's not really doing that. It's kind of almost like a little bit of a twist toward the end, where he's basically trying to get Batman to do certain things, because he thinks this is a little bit of a spoiler. He thinks that he and Batman are on the same side and they're kind of working toward the same goal. So a lot of his riddles are actually trying to lead Batman, not necessarily to the next victim, but to do action, to perform actions that would lead the Riddler to access to his next victim, if that makes any sense. And I thought that was a really cool part of the story. And that, I think a lot of people kind of miss that have seen it. They're like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. But there's a really cool scene toward the end of the movie where Batman and Riddler sit down and they're talking, and there's a lot of, at least for me, there was a lot of tension, and then it kind of gets the tension gets broken, and they kind of go into their like little banter back and forth, basically where the Riddler explains like, no man, we're in this together, you were helping me. And Batman, I think, is pretty like, oh shit, but yeah, and this, we're dealing with a younger Batman. This is only his second year, or toward the end of his second year being around. I really enjoyed his partnership with Gordon. I thought that it was pretty cool. I enjoyed a little bit of their back and forth, although mostly it was Gordon talking, not Batman. But at one point, Batman tells Gordon, like, no guns, and he's like, "Oh, that's your thing, man. I'm a cop. I'm going to use my gun." I'm kind of almost to the point where like, man, I really want to see, because it's established in the film basically that Gordon and Batman only trust each other. They don't trust anybody else. And I'm curious as to how that relationship developed. I almost kind of feel like there's a little bit of year one, maybe in that. I mean, they don't really hint at it, but I kind of feel like, and basically at the end of year one, Batman ends up saving Gordon's baby. Gordon's baby gets kidnapped. The mob, I think, is trying to pressure him into playing by their rules or whatever. You know, he's Gordon's pretty much incorruptible. They're trying to get him to play by their game or by their rules, so they kidnap his kid to try and get him to do what he wants. Batman ends up saving the kid. It's a really cool moment in the book. This is the year one Batman storyline. You can get it in trade paperback. I believe Frank Miller wrote it as well. And basically Batman, it happens during the daytime. It's kind of like in The Dark Knight where, you know, Batman goes out to do something. And he's like, you know, Alfred's like, you want to get the suit? And he's like, nope, not in the daytime. And so he goes out to foil this kidnapping, and he doesn't have his suit on, and he's not wearing, you think he'd maybe at least put a ski mask on, but he's not wearing anything. He saves Gordon's baby, who basically, like, the mobster was holding him. And I can't remember if Gordon shoots him or if Batman does it. I think Batman tackles him, and they fall like off a bridge, and Batman like saves the baby, like grabs the baby in midair and saves it. And then you see him like hand the baby back to Gordon, and Gordon's like, and obviously, I mean, it's Bruce Wayne. Like, Bruce Wayne's just standing there handing the baby back to Gordon, and Gordon's like, I can't see shit without my glasses. And you kind of almost get like a sense of like, obviously, I mean, he obviously knows it's Bruce Wayne. He can see him, but he just says that kind of to save, face for Batman. And, from that point on, like, Gordon is Batman's, loyal confidant. And I kind of feel like maybe there's a similar story with this version of the characters where Batman did something really, to really gain Gordon's trust. Cause basically it said, a couple times in the movie, you're the only one I trust. So they had a really cool dynamic in the movie. It was good to have Gordon there basically so Batman could explain like, oh, well, this, this is why this is here, or this is that, like basically gave Batman somebody to explain things to so that we would understand what was going on. And I thought it was a really cool dynamic. I really enjoyed I can't remember his name right now, but the actor that played him, he didn't have a ton to do, but it was enough. Selena Kyle, this version of Catwoman, I enjoyed her. There's one line in the movie that kind of fell flat for me, but it didn't take me out of the movie. What else? Let's see. I enjoyed the action scenes, although there wasn't a ton, but there was a few. Batman uses a lot of, he takes a lot of abuse. That was kind of one of the things that I was a little unhappy with, is in a few scenes, it seems like he's just letting people shoot him, and he's letting, people land punches. And I kind of chalk that up to him like, well, he's younger, he's inexperienced. There's a lot of times where I would think, man, like, I don't care what kind of body armor he's got, like toward the end of the film, he takes a couple of rounds from what appear to be like hunting rifles. And anybody that knows anything about ballistics or like, like that, a bulletproof vest isn't going to stop that, especially at close range. But, we always use he's got access to better materials, to space age materials, stuff like that, because of his wealth. They never explicitly explain that, but at the same time, they don't do a lot of the stuff that, because, with the Nolan movies, we had to get his origin. We had to find out where he gets all his shit, all his gear. And this one, all that's been done. They're like, we're not going to do that again. We don't see his parents get killed. It's mentioned several times, but it's never, if there's no flashback with it. We saw his parents get killed in Batman versus Superman. We saw his parents get killed in Batman Begins. We saw his parents get killed in the Batman movie. So, his parents have been killed over and over again. We don't need to see it anymore. It's kind of like what they did with Spider-Man's origin in the MCU. They talked about it a little bit, but they never really showed it to us. And then, we get into the gear and equipment in the movie, and a lot of the stuff that he's using, it kind of looks like his belt is it just looks like a police utility belt or something like that. In fact, one of the pouches on his belt is just like a magazine pouch from, like a duty belt. And some of that stuff was pretty cool. But again, there's this mix of he's using his money. Basically, he has a super tough suit that can obviously take a bullet from a high powered rifle, but he's also, got a $20 mag pouch from Bianchi on his belt. Bianchi's a company that makes a lot of police gear. So yeah, it was an interesting mix of stuff like that. The Batmobile, which I have to say, I really like the Tumbler in the Batman Begins movies, and I like Michael Keaton's Batmobile, but I think this one, as far as, I know it's new, I'm just, been exposed to it, but I think it's probably my favorite, just because it's really, really cool looking without being bombastic. It's not like outlandish. He could literally probably drive this down the road, and until you saw like the back of it, unless you were looking at the back of it where the engine is, you'd probably just think it was another car. It's just kind of got like a classic muscle car, kind of like the old Charger front end, and it kind of looks, it's kind of low key. It's kind of more covert, and I really thought that was cool. He also rides a couple of motorcycles in the movie. One is like his, I guess just his regular bike, and then another one is an actual bat bike. They're okay. I wish they would have used, at least for one of them, used maybe an American bike for both of them. Catwoman rides a BMW. They're fine bikes. They're great, but it kind of takes me out of the movie a little bit when I see a movie that's supposedly set in America and like everything is foreign. Like all the motorcycles are foreign motorcycles. And we don't see like a lot of Triumph motorcycles and stuff up here in Alaska. So maybe they're a little bit more abundant in the lower 48. And if I saw one, I'd be like, oh, look, a Triumph. But for me, not almost never seeing a Triumph on the road. When I see them in the movie that's supposed to be set in America, it kind of takes me out of the movie for a minute. And I'm like, why couldn't they just spring for a Harley or an Indian or something? But we get a sense that he's still tinkering with stuff. He's still working on his loadout and his gear, and a lot of it is homemade. It doesn't seem like he really relies on Lucius Fox or anything like that for his gear, although he may. There's a lot of the stuff that we do. This movie is literally him working this case. There is not a lot of filler or in between. Like I said, when people complain about how long it is, really each scene goes to the next. It flows to the next. It's him following the clues in this case. There is not a lot of filler. I will say this is probably my biggest problem with the movie. It's the one scene I was talking about that you didn't need to have. You could have cut it out entirely and it wouldn't have made a difference, I don't think. And it's the scene with Riddler's in Arkham, and he starts talking, like the guy in the cell next to him starts talking to him, and it's heavily implied that the inmate that he's talking to is the Joker. It's not said. It's not explicitly like laid out there, but I mean, it's pretty obvious. And I kind of felt like this was supposed to be like a, what do you call it? A stinger at the end of the credits, like how Marvel does. It felt almost like a studio note to me where they're like, you gotta tease something for the future. You gotta tease more. You gotta leave something out there that people are gonna want to see in the sequel. And it was I feel like it was almost kind of forced in there. But other than that, I mean, and Mark Miller has said, like, just because you saw this Joker in the credits or in the movie doesn't necessarily mean you're going to see him in the sequel. And I would be fine with that. Batman has so many different villains that you could use without using the Joker again for years. In fact, it would be great because I'm pretty sure they signed on Robert Pattinson for 3 films. Maybe have another little tease of the Joker in the next one, and then maybe in the third one bring the Joker out. For that, the Joker and the Riddler, maybe bring them back. But yeah, I felt like that scene, it was a little, I don't know, it just felt kind of tacked on. Didn't really feel like it did anything other than tease the existence of the Joker in this universe. Supposedly there's a deleted scene where Batman goes to see the Joker, and the Joker basically implies, it's almost our anniversary from the first time he caught him. So it means that they've actually encountered each other before. Batman's the reason he's in there. So I'm not sure if Reeves wanted to just say, okay, these characters have history, like they're basically just established like, yeah, Batman's been around for a couple of years, he's had other adventures other than this one. And then maybe we never see the Joker again, or if he was trying to tease something. Like I said, I feel like that conversation between Riddler and the Joker was kind of a stinger for things to come, a preview, something that they wanted in there to give people something to look forward to. But yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. I still haven't made up my mind if it's better than The Dark Knight or not. I don't even know if you can compare them. I mean, they're both Batman movies, but they're kind of different style of movies. While one is kind of a crime, almost like Heat type film, the other one is very much a detective story. So I don't know. Right now, obviously, if I was given the choice to watch The Batman or The Dark Knight, I would choose The Batman because I've seen The Dark Knight a lot. So I would want to watch The Batman again right now. But I don't see myself ever being like, well, no, I'm never going to watch The Dark Knight again. It's kind of like that scenario where people are, comparing it to having to choose between their children, like which one do you choose? Which one's your favorite? And it's really hard to do because they both have great qualities and they're both awesome movies. So that's pretty much my review on The Dark Knight, or The Dark Knight. I should do a review of The Dark Knight, of the Batman. Maybe that was a Freudian slip. Maybe that means that I like The Dark Knight better. But I went head over heels for the Batman after I saw it. We went out to Walmart and I bought me a Batmobile, like a toy Batmobile to put on my shelf. I got, and this is, so, I'm not naive enough to say that advertising doesn't work on me, because obviously it does for certain things. I mean, you can show me all the ads for car insurance in the world and I don't care, because I don't care about car insurance. But I saw some ads on social media for this, this bat calzone that they have at Little Caesars. And I was like, because I like pizza. Pizza is one of my favorite foods. I like pizza. I like Batman. I'm like, what's, why am I not getting this? So we went to the Little Caesars in Anchorage, one of them. And I didn't know this at the time, but I guess it's like a pickups. You just go in and pick up your pizza. You can't eat there. So we ended up picking up a calzone. I had to wait a while to eat it because it was so hot. But it was really good. And I was really impressed with the price. Like, it was like $10 for a calzone that would feed 2 or 3 people. And, usually here in Alaska, something like that would run you like 15, 16 bucks, 14 bucks probably. But, yeah, it was a good price. I really, I actually noticed in the ads, I think in the lower 48, it's running for like $7.99. So it's even cheaper down there. But, yeah, their advertising worked on me, and they sold me a calzone. And if they're still carrying them, the next time I go to Anchorage, I might get one. It was actually that good. We're trying to eat a little bit healthier now. We've been on a diet for the last couple of months, and there for a while I was working out pretty well every day, except for the weekends. And then when we got knocked down with the COVID, I stopped working out, and I was like, well, I'll start working out when I feel better. And I started feeling better, but now I've got this thing with my voice, and I keep putting it off. And I think probably next week I'm going to get back into it, because if I keep putting it off, I'm just never going to do it. But yeah, anyway, I was trying to get in shape for this summer, because there's some places I want to go and some stuff I want to do, and I want to be in better shape when I do it. But anyway, if you still can, if it's still playing at your theater and you're interested in going to see it, I suggest you go and see the Batman. But like I said, you got to pay attention. You got to really follow along, and go to the bathroom before the movie, and don't, because I was so like, the first time we went and seen it, I didn't drink any. I didn't get a soda, and I didn't get any popcorn or nothing. I was like, I'm not going to the bathroom during this movie. I'm going to sit here and watch this entire thing. I think I had a couple of sips of my wife's soda during the movie to kind of keep my lips wet and stuff. But other than that, I was like, I'm not getting up. I'm going to watch this entire movie. So now I got to probably wait another 5 years for the next one. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on the Batman. Please head over to AlaskaWatchPodcast.com. You can pick up some cool stickers. You can pick up copies of my book that are autographed. And Alaskawatch t-shirts, please pick one of those up. I'm trying to get rid of those. And we've got some new stickers coming soon. They're really cool. I think you're really going to enjoy them. Also, don't forget, if you support law enforcement, if you're a fan of the Boys in Blue, please make a donation to a law enforcement charity of your choosing, and take a screenshot of it, post it on social media with the hashtag #BigfootBacksTheBlue, and I will be sure and give you a shout out either on the podcast or on social media. So thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate you. And, I would say keep it squatchy, but I think somebody else has got that catchphrase taken. Be careful out there.